Hello, everyone, and welcome back to For St. Pete's Sake. This is the political podcast where we deep dive into everything democratically political and politically democratic, whatever. You guys know what I'm saying. We're in Pinellas County. We're in St. Pete. We're sponsored by the Stonewall Democrats of Pinellas County. My name is Christian Hotchkiss. I'm the president of the Stonewall Dems, joined as always by my amazing vice president and co-host, Laura Gerken. Laura, how are you?
I'm doing great today, Christian. How are you doing?
I'm a little nauseous and, obviously a little tongue-tied, but we're going to get there. We're going to get through this.
Yeah,
It's going to be a
we're
great
we're
day.
gonna push through it. We always do.
Yeah, exactly. And we've got a phenomenal guest with us today. We've heard from him before, live in person at one of our general meetings, but we wanted to get him on the podcast so that we can get to know you a little bit more and spread the word throughout the Bay Area. So,
Yeah, we've got City Council, St. Pete City Council member Richie Floyd. Richie is, like Christian said, he came to our in-person Stonewall meeting and just had a lot of cool stuff to talk about with St. Pete. So we wanted to get him on the pod. So, hi, Richie. I'll give you a moment to, just give us any introduction that you'd like to about yourself.
Great. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, my name's Richie. I'm a city council member for District 8. Got elected in 2021, which means I have to run for re-election next year. So I'm thinking about that already. And, had a great time coming to the Stonewall Dems meeting not too long ago. I feel like it was just maybe 2 months ago, maybe.
I think
And,
so.
enjoyed that. Hadn't been to the headquarters in a while, so it was nice to head back up there. Um, and yeah, I represent District 8, which is sort of in the center of the city. If you're familiar with the neighborhoods, it's like Kenwood, Distant Heights, and I live in Central Oak Park. Pretty much centrally located. So a great place to live, a wonderful place to represent.
yeah, it's funny because I used to live, like I was telling you earlier, I lived in an apartment complex right next to the library there. And I loved that it was like perfectly in the middle from downtown and the beaches. And, then you have all the stores and stuff right down there on 34th. It's great.
Yeah, it's really nice. Actually, I'm spoiled. Like, if I have to drive more than like 10 minutes to get anywhere, I'm like, oh, it's just so far away. Like, because I can get, yeah, like pretty much anywhere in 10 to 15 minutes. And, except maybe like, the furthest place north and the furthest place south in the city.
Yeah, for sure. Something that I don't even know if we talked about on at the meeting, but that I read that I was thought would be really interesting to talk to you about is I read that you identify as a member of the Democratic Socialist Party of America. And so I thought that was really cool. And so I just wanted to, maybe talk about when you sort of started identifying with the DSA and like how what the difference is between like the DSA and the Democratic Party.
I mean, so I'm a DSA member, but it's not a party. It's just an organization that like an activist group that gets together. Most people in it are Democrats. I'm a registered Democrat. But not everyone. I mean, there are no Republicans, I can tell you that much. But yeah, I mean, the difference is right off the bat, like that one's just an activist group that works on certain issues and advocates for really a very progressive vision, a democratic socialist vision, and the other one's a political party. And so I participate in both. But yeah, joined DSA in like 2017, I think. And honestly, before I wasn't political. I grew up like, I voted Democrat growing up. Not a surprise, like, I'm mixed race man in the South, like, yeah, I'm voting Democrat. And then I literally, like, I was not interested in politics at all, though. I think I was registered as an NPA at first, or no party independent, depending on what you call it, whenever I first registered when I was 18, and did not care about politics. And literally, it was like one day, like something snapped. I was at my parents' house. I think it was 2015. I was just hanging out there. Like I was sitting on their couch, and my cousin's then boyfriend at the time came in the house, and he was like, "Have you ever heard of Bernie Sanders?" And I was like, "Nah, I don't know who that is." And he was like, "Watch this video," and he showed me this video. You can still find it on YouTube. It's called Progress, and It was like one of Bernie's like launch videos to his 2016 presidential campaign, and it was like he was like, get money out of politics, end the wars in the Middle East, Medicare for all, free college. And I like watched this 5 minute video and I gave him his phone back. I was like, yeah, that's what I want. And I mean, I always felt like, yeah, I knew there was like European social democracy and people didn't have to pay to go to the doctor. And I was always pissed off that we couldn't have that in America. And as soon as like a major politician said that to me, like I was instantly like, okay, what is this about? And then he was like, yeah, democratic socialism. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, and so that's kind of what's looped me in right away. But since then, like I've just participated in a bunch of like volunteer activities and like helped with the DSA, like lead the Fight for 15 campaign, like we in 2020 that was successful, and we did a huge like how do I describe it, like remote campaign because it was during the pandemic. I think we leaned a lot on text banking,
Mhm.
and with people all across the state, and did stuff like that. Have campaigned on a bunch of smaller issues as well. And that's kind of how I got to political office, though. Like, honestly, the Democratic Party was not speaking to me back in the day. Like, I mean, it was cool to see Obama get elected. I think I was 17, so I didn't get to vote for him the first time. But it took someone getting on stage and being like, wait, you know how things are like bad and like you got to go to the doctor and pay like an arm and a leg when you're sick and it's embarrassing for our country, like it shouldn't be like that. And they were talking about democratic socialism, and so I was like, oh yeah, that's what I support.
That's really cool. Yeah, I know that I know that's I guess yeah, the DSA is like an activism group. Course kind of under the umbrella of the Democratic Party, but like kind of outside of it.
Kind of
Like you said, there's a lot of
independent. Yeah.
overlap.
Yeah.
Yeah, I and like my entrance into, the more progressive side of the Democratic politics was also Bernie Sanders in
Mm.
2015. So I was still living in Ohio at the time in Toledo, and he came to Toledo and was in like our little convention center right across the street from my work at
Wow.
the time. And it was one of the highlights of my life to see him speak and, be a part of that crowd. So I definitely understand that feeling.
Yeah, it's nice when you like I don't know. And I say this all the time to like Democrats in general. It's like you got to make people feel like they're a part of something, and like
Yeah.
I think people complain because Trump's supporters will like say, "Oh, it's about the price of eggs." And then the price of eggs like goes up more and they're like, "Well, it wasn't really about that." And they're just like make excuses or whatever. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's stupid and terrible. But also, like, there's a lesson to be learned there. Like, you should have, like, your people should ride or die for you, like, hard as can be. Like, and they should feel like they're a part of something that's like doing something for their lives, changing society. Now, obviously, uh, the other side's, part of something is like horrible and evil, but
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. There's a lesson to be learned there about like rallying people together. And I think Democrats have shied away from it, honestly, like over the
Mhm.
last few years, like actually rallying their base, like to support bold things. And that's been frustrating, but I'm always harping on it and how that needs to take place.
Yeah, for sure.
It's so weird to me that Bernie is very popular across the board. Great message, great beliefs, great platform, and all that. But yet the Democratic Party just holds him down so bad, so bad.
I mean, yeah, I could, there's a number of reasons, but like, I mean, come on, think about it. Like, the man's like, oh, we want to get big money out of politics. Like,
Right.
there's big money donors on both sides. Like, that's what the problem is. Yeah. It was funny because I was on Florida this week and maybe 6 months ago or something, nice PBS show, that they film in Tampa, and was on there with, I can't remember who it was. A bigger named Republican, not an elected official, but like an activist in the Republican Party. Uh, and I was complaining about how Trump like uh says like, oh, we're draining the swamp, and then like appoints a bunch of lobbyists to a bunch of positions. And And I was like, yeah, it's just more big money controlling. I mean, it's, the oligarchy controlling the country. And she was like, well, there's big money in Democratic politics, even in St. Pete. And I was just like, yeah, that's a problem too. Like, and I don't think they were ready for me to be like, yeah, that's a problem too. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. So I think,
We're able to call our own problems out too. We're
yeah,
able to
yeah.
admit that we have a problem.
If you're, yeah, if you're like, I don't know, just always used to defending your side all the time. Like, I'm not here to defend anybody doing anything I don't agree with. Like, it's that simple.
Yeah.
But yeah, so anyway, I mean, they hold him down for that reason. The establishment had their favored choice in 2016 and um, and again in 2020. I don't know what to say about it. I do think Democratic voters in general are like a little uh more conservative. I'm saying this provocatively on purpose when it comes to choosing their presidential nominee because they want to win, and for some reason people have convinced themselves that like the way to win is to cater to not the center, I guess the center you could say to be like really blunt about it, but to just like more temper instead of like being bold. And although I do think that's changing. Like I've seen some polls recently that have like people wanting to fight, like Democrats being like, no, we're done
Mhm.
tempering and catering to anybody who want to fight. Um, which is good, but like I'm actually like as much as I'm like, oh, it's DSA, democratic socialism like versus centrism. I'm not like yeah, I'm ideological, but like my political philosophy is not one that like comes at it from an ideological angle. I believe like you should have principles. They
Mhm.
can be liberal principles, they can be democratic socialist principles, they could be conservative principles. You should have principles and you should stick to them and like have a vision. And it's like I don't think people should be like this or that issue. I take this position because it's what's popular. Like no, like
Right.
what do your principles guide you to? You might have a couple of issues that are unpopular positions, but I think people will like be much happier with you if you're just principled and they know what they're going to get out of you all the time. And that's how I always operate. And so like I'll be at City Hall like, no matter what happens, I don't think anybody really gets upset with me or thinks that I'm coming at something from like an unprincipled position. They just know what I'm going to say right away, and it's very easy to deal with. And sometimes they're with me and sometimes they're not. But I think, that could be a big lesson. And I think that's a part of the reason why Bernie gets so popular is because he said the same thing for 30 years. He's very
Mhm.
principled. I think, independents and even some conservatives see that and they're like, I don't agree with him, but I know he's not lying to me.
Exactly.
And that's a big lesson I think people could take. I mean, have positive things to say about Kamala Harris, but it's very frustrating when she ran for president and the first time actually. So I'll go back to the first time she ran for president, and they asked on stage like, do you support Medicare for all? And I'm sorry, I keep going back to Medicare for all because like I have health
Oh
issues,
yeah.
like I don't want to pay, like it's just obscene anyway. So and she raised her hand yes, and her and Bernie were the only two who raised their hands yes, and this was during the primary in 2020. And she
Hmm.
started like climbing in the polls, and like 2 days later she put out a statement. It was like, I was confused, I didn't mean to raise my hand yes. And then we saw that in her last presidential run where she like disavowed all of her old progressive stuff. It's like, dude, just pick a lane. Like, if you want to be a centrist, like, if someone's like, I believe in like centrism, which I don't think a lot of people actually do, but if somebody was like, I believe in it because it's like the best path forward, not politically, but like for our country, like, I would be like, okay, I can figure out how to work with you. Like, that's
Yeah.
fine. Like, I know you're principled. It's okay. But anyway, just a big lesson I think Democrats could stand to learn is just be principled.
Absolutely. And I think that's why it's so interesting that I mean, I think the reason that the Democratic Party is moderating so much is because they're like so obsessed with that mythical Obama Trump voter. And it's like, I just think that those voters are one of what people call low information, and not that they're not smart or people, but they're just people that are living a life every day and they don't have time to pay attention to everything that we do. So, it's like, oh, Obama, he was a good communicator. He had an amazing message. Like that was easy to, connect to. Trump has been, been a popular name for years and years and years and, associated with success. So people are just like, okay, sure, whatever. And so I think that that's a lot of the reason why it's like, well, look at what happened after we elected the black guy. Well, it's obviously it was a big backlash, so we can't, we've got to find the squishiest center, and it's like it's not going to happen again. I mean, I don't know. I just like that was I thought that was disappointing too with like losing out on Bernie, and then in 2020 I was in Elizabeth Warren camp, but that's not that far off from being in Bernie's camp. It's just a little bit more pragmatism that I think is the only difference I think. But yeah, it's just so, but what I think is interesting is you see the splits on people like they would vote for Trump and then voted for like Andy Beshear in Kentucky, a Democratic governor. And so it's like
You saw that
how
in New York too, where AOC's voters got, voted for Trump, but then voted for her.
exactly, exactly. So how like I do how does the like MAGA type those crazy those like e- elevated levels of politics have that has that infiltrated on St. Pete City Council, or are you all like pretty much able to be like, yeah, we're from a different party, but we can be work together.
I mean, so first off, 7 out of the 8 city council members in St. Pete are Democrats, and one is an independent.
Oh,
So, and there before there was one independent, there was one Republican. So like, and I mean, yeah, sometimes there was like party line votes in general, but that's very rare at a city thing. Uh, and actually I can't think of an example right now, so I'll take that back. But there was times whenever it was me and the one Republican voting together on things like maybe we arrived to it from a different position, or maybe we got there from the same angle, but it happens. And city politics is often a lot less political, I would say, like when it or partisan, a lot less partisan,
mhm.
but it's still very like political. And the decisions you make don't really have a lot to do with your party, but have a lot to do with um, I don't know, like just
Serving
your
the
vision for
community.
the city or
Yeah.
your class position as well, I'll say. But I think you're right. Like when it comes to voting though, like a lot of that stuff happens. Like there were for the most part, if it's like a Democratic voting precinct, it votes for Democrats in the city council races. Like,
Hmm.
there was a couple of precincts in my district I like to make note of where like they voted Republican in every other race, but voted for me, and that's because we did a lot of outreach. And I'll just say, like, we knocked on a lot of doors. I think my campaign, like,
Your ground game was incredible.
yeah, it was a lot of work, but a lot of fun. I think we knocked on like 30,000 doors total in the end, and my goal for a re-election is 50,000. And the thing is like you talk to people and they're not like, they're not like busting out a spreadsheet and being like, okay, so my attitudes are
Right.
this, and you're like, I'm like all the way on the left on this issue, but you're on the right. So like, well, that's 1 point deducted from you. Like, no, they're not doing that. They're just like, most of the time you go to people's houses and they're like, well, thank you for coming to my house and caring about what I have to say. And like when we go out and do it, we're just like, hey, go and treat people like with dignity at their door. Like they don't want to talk to you, it's fine. If they're excited about something, like hear them out and like share their excitement. If they're frustrated about something, understand that they have a right to be frustrated about. Look, I'm frustrated about a lot of things in the world. If I could get
Hmm.
Joe Biden in front of me, like I'd probably like give him an earful. Like, so if people give you an earful at the door, it's fine. Like, and I also tell people it's like, but what's more left wing than just like treating people with dignity on the weekend? Like that's what we go to do. And so,
Totally.
and that wins you over a lot of people, and just like going to there, telling them what your message is, telling them you care about what they have to say. And it's easy enough. And so like I don't really have like much issues with like, partisanship. Maybe it's me. I don't know what other people deal with, but like I talk to everybody in the city and it's no big deal and find ways to work with them. But I don't like compromise my values at all to ever
Right.
do that. Yeah, like I still like, uh am gonna do what I'm gonna do. But if you can see a way that you can slot in there, then yeah, jump on board. It's all good.
Yeah,
Awesome.
absolutely. Your ground game, like I said, was amazing. You had a great team, and all the work that you guys did was incredible. So it's no wonder why you won. Um, but I want to move into we touched on it a little bit earlier. The current actual climate change here in St. Pete, Florida in general, but definitely here in Pinellas, we've seen some really rough times. Last year we had Hurricane Milton, Hurricane Helene. Um, Thankfully, we weren't hit so hard, but obviously our neighbors down south were. So we're seeing that more volatile weather. Um, what is the city doing to mitigate these impacts as far as like the drainage or anything like that?
Yeah, we're actually like, so the city a few years ago made a plan, like a stormwater master plan, specifically for drainage from rain, so stormwater. And we've been working to implement it, but it had like uh I'll give you my best recollection. I think $700 million worth of projects needed to be done. And that's a lot of money for like one city to take on by itself. Uh Water infrastructure back in the day, like 70s, I don't know if it's all water, stormwater, potable water, but water infrastructure in general used to be subsidized like a lot by the federal government. And like I think it was like, I mean, look, it was just Reagan. If you want to think about, yeah, things that have gone bad in this country, Reagan um, was part of it. And, I think subsequent Democratic administrations, when they took a neoliberal turn as well, just lowered the amount of subsidy for water systems in the country. And so we built a lot back in the day and maintained them. And then now they're across the whole country falling into disarray because they're not being funded enough.
Mhm.
So anyway, we have a lot of projects. Actually, I believe we're doing a really good job in St. Pete, comparatively, but comparative doesn't make you feel really good, because we're still in a bad situation. And um, so we have this stormwater master plan. It's got a lot of projects. We're trying to accelerate a lot of them. And so we've got this program that everyone's pretty much united on at City Hall. We've got some different ideas about how it should be implemented, but this program called like St. Pete Agile Resilience, and SPAR is what we call it for short. And it's where we try to accelerate like 5 or 10 stormwater projects. And that is going on now. I can't remember all of them, but I remember a couple of important ones because they impact my district. One impacts my area directly, where we try to lower the water levels at a couple of lakes, Lake Emerald behind the old Times facility, Lake Jorgensen behind the main library. We're gonna put in pumps to pump water into the aquifer before big rain events, so that way water can drain more quickly, because those are what water drains into. And when those are full and eclipsing their banks, there's no place for water to go. And so the couple of neighborhoods around me have flooded because of that. So we have a couple of those projects that were on the list, but they were further down. But then we've been getting flooding, also around Bear Creek as well, which is like sort of not quite my district, a little west of it. But basically the southwest portion of my district, sort of right where districts 1, 7, and 8 interact, around 58th Street,
Mm.
in Central, I'll say that area. And we've got another project over there because like even during, you'd mentioned hurricanes, but even during like just rainstorms in the
Yeah.
summer, we had a couple of rainstorms that like literally flooded neighborhoods, like, and they were like 1 hour rainstorms. It was sunny, clouds roll in, it rained 7 inches in an hour,
Yes.
like, which our stormwater system is to like the highest level of service that like basically cities build to. um I'm sorry, like the highest flow rate that cities build to. I think level of service is slightly different, and the flow rate is 7 inches over 24 hours, which is a 1 in 100 year rainstorm. So last year we started getting rainstorms in the afternoon that were like 4, 5, 6, as much as 7 on some meters in 1 hour. Like that's a 1 in 100 year rainstorm over 24 hours, and we're getting it in 1 hour. And so like there was literally like houses near Bear Creek that had like waist high flood water in
Oh.
them from an afternoon rainstorm. Uh,
I had a Jeep Cherokee that was driving down First Ave South and got flooded over the top by cars going through a puddle and lost my Jeep.
was that last year?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It was crazy. And yeah, it happened in this area, but it also happened a little further north as well. Like so yeah, the hurricanes are bad. And like, we had a Hurricane Milton flooded all of those same areas. 1 in 1,000 year rainstorm. Helene flooded all the low-lying areas. I don't know the statistics on that, but I don't think we do have plans for stormwater projects, and I'm hoping we can do some regulation soon. I've been pushing for us to make it more, not more difficult, but make it more stringent. Like if you build like commercial development or multifamily development, you should have to offset the maximum amount of stormwater that we can legally require you to offset because the state sets limits.
Mhm.
And I'm hoping we can get to that. I'm advocating for it. We'll see if everybody else agrees with me, but we're doing a lot, and we're constantly after like more funding to get things done. But come full circle here, it's going to be difficult because the federal government is just not funding things at all anymore. Like
Right.
it's literally to the point where like things that we had coming from grants, they just canceled the grants, like stormwater projects and floodplain projects, and they're not giving them out anymore. And so uh, we're in for some, difficulty with the way with how much Trump sucks.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Doge is doing great. They're eliminating waste and fraud.
But somehow spending more money than the federal government's like ever spent before. They've cut
Yep.
more things and spent more money. I wonder where it's going. Oh, into the pockets of the billionaires that are running the show is the truth, but
Hmm, we won't talk about
Exactly.
it.
No. I have my tinfoil hat is that they've been shorting the market with all of this, knowing, I mean,
I
it,
don't think that that's tinfoil hat though. Trump's tweeting it buy
Yeah,
stocks now, and
yeah,
then that's insider trading. Like
literally.
corruption at its very base.
I'll tell y'all something if you just want to, be conversational, is like the
Yeah.
next person, I've been telling everybody this, the next person who runs for president, like on the Democratic side, like obviously in a primary, like I'd love to vote for somebody who like I agree with ideologically, but like more than that, I'm gonna vote for somebody who will like actually get up there and like do what needs to be like fix all of the things that have been broken,
Yeah.
like not like Merrick Garland investigated Trump, took forever, dragged his feet. Like I want somebody who's actually gonna like fight and like this uncover all the illegal crap they've been doing,
Oh yeah.
and somebody who's gonna fix all of it right away. Like so that's like the number one thing I'll be looking forward to next time.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
for sure.
I
I think
want
a lot of people will be.
70,000 different investigations.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
they're breaking the law left and right. It's
Oh,
crazy. Like Elon Musk literally gets in there and cuts funding to every single government agency that's investigating all of his crimes, and
yep.
then sends
Yeah,
money
his
to himself.
companies.
It's
Yeah.
just so corrupt. It's crazy.
I mean, we could have the conversation about corruption all day long. It's insane, and
Yeah.
but I feel like if we talk about it anymore, we're going to be deported. So,
Oh,
They
I
are trying.
know. Hey, I was,
homegrowns.
I know that's the thing. Yeah, that's who's next, right? It's not. I mean, it's funny, but it's not. Like it's
No. Yeah.
deeply dark times. Yeah.
And that was, I saw someone passing around a quote today that was from the Holocaust, the like National Holocaust Museum. I think it said that they were talking about the difference between a concentration camp and prison is adjudication, like
Mm.
whether or not you've been adjudicated to be there. And on none of those people that we've sent to CCOT have been adjudicated for anything. So, just things to put in perspective. So. I've got just one last quick question for you. Just on everybody's favorite topic, which is the Rays.
I knew
It's
we were
our
gonna get there.
yeah.
We have
The
to.
season started, so this is our first, part of the season without having them here in downtown. And so just wondering how has that been for the businesses and how has that been with like have you with just how you've seen that go? Have you like still are you still confident in your no vote that you had on the historic gas plant district, or have you rethought about that at all? Like where do you think about that?
I mean, yeah, I'm still confident, but the thing is that it ended up being in the hands of
The
the
county.
person who decided not to do it. But yeah, I mean, I'll tell you the same thing I've told, like, I could nitpick the deal, which I did, and I do think that made it a little better, but I never think it's going to be a good deal to give hundreds of millions of dollars of public wealth away to a billionaire. Like, you're just never going to get me to do that. And so, yeah, so I sleep very well at night over my no vote. But that doesn't mean that I'm not like completely aware of like what the consequences of that are. Um, and with the Rays not playing here, this is a slightly different situation. But I know there's some businesses that relied on game day
Mm,
stuff to make their payroll and get things done. And so I've already talked to some of those businesses and discussed with like the local chamber, like if we want to advocate for some sort of like grant program like existed during COVID that could help people like shore up a new customer base and stuff, so that we acknowledge that like, well, the economic impact is not worth the city putting in $500 million into a stadium. It is worth it, like it does exist, and so we
mhm,
should try to smooth out the transition as best as possible. And so um, that's gone on some, but I think when you look at the city as a whole, you're not actually like seeing an economic impact from them not being here because the places that see them, like the places that rely on them, are like literally within a few blocks of the stadium.
right.
Like that's what it is, and it's like say and this is, like I mentioned, this is different because it's only because the stadium just disappeared all of a sudden. And
Whoa.
that's nothing to do with the historic gas plant boat. That's because of the hurricane.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's easy to say like, yeah, we should support people who like had a piece of their like economic calculus disappear. The thing about the gas plant is that okay, there's no stadium there. We're still going to provide like economic stimulus in that area that would have helped those businesses without paying for a stadium. But yeah, it's obviously going to be difficult when something like instantly happens because of a storm. But the other thing is like, to go back to our last conversation, honestly, it was like bound to happen at some point. Like we're just bound to get hit. Like we've been lucky not to have gotten hit by a storm, and we're bound to have all sorts of negative outcomes because of it.
Mhm.
And we're bound to have it happen again. And so I think it's a crappy situation to be in. And I think we don't talk enough anymore about climate change and how it's going to
Mhm.
impact St. Pete first. Like literally, we're on the front lines of it,
Yep.
and it's a dangerous position to be in long term. And I think that's probably my biggest takeaway is we need to really start confronting that.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Now, are there any, we know that the Rays pulled out of the talks and they said no deal. It was on them that why they don't have a stadium or they don't have a plan to have a stadium here in St. Pete again. Is there any indication that there could be a deal made or have you guys completely cut everything off or?
So, I mean, I don't negotiate the deals. If I did, they would look different. But but I think the mayor's who does do the negotiating, or his staff does, has made pretty clear that like he doesn't want to negotiate with the current ownership anymore. And that makes sense because we spent 2 years and God, probably millions of dollars of city staff time negotiating that agreement for them to back out at the last second. Like, how do you go through that process again with someone that
In good
just,
faith.
yeah, I don't know how you do that. Like, it's just not an easy task to accomplish. And you trust a group of people to come through and they don't at the end. And so, yeah, I don't know what that looks like. I think that some people, maybe politicians even, are holding out hope that the team gets sold, but the ownership said the team's not for sale. Honestly, I'm ready to like just like make a decision is like what I want. Like, sell the team, don't sell the team, move, don't move, quit messing with us. Like, we have a lot of important stuff to accomplish in our city. And it's very frustrating when I have to stop what I'm doing and be like, all right, let me go deal with a baseball stadium again. It's
Right.
like, yeah, it's a nice thing to have, but it's a nice thing to have. Like, there are things that are necessary to have: roofs over people's heads, power in people's outlets, like water on people's taps, like being able to flush the toilet. And like, we should be able to do all those things. And yeah, we should focus on people having a nice time as well, but like, we can't focus on people having a nice time and a billionaire making a bunch of money at the expense of all the other things. And so, yeah, it's been quite frustrating for me, but I don't have an outcome for you. I think that we are I think that the mayor's interested in like trying to redevelop the parts of the property that we control completely over the next few years, like making a plan, getting the design phase done, like that kind of thing. I think there's like 16 acres that we can like get to right away. We'll see what comes of that. Like, again, I don't get to negotiate those agreements. I don't get to put out the RFPs and just get to say yes or no at the end. I'm optimistic that the next thing that gets proposed, I'll be able to say yes to. Um, because there was some good stuff in the plan that was before. I just didn't agree with the amount of stadium subsidy, and there won't be a stadium subsidy now. And so I think I can have a back and forth with them a little bit more effectively because of that.
And if I remember correctly, or if I read correctly, there is like the stadium subsidy, and then like the affordable housing aspect of it too was there was not nearly enough and for your liking enough funding for affordable housing and for actual affordable housing versus the workforce development housing, which in all clarity, that's what my apartment is. But so like I love it because it gives me a break a little bit, but at the same time, I know it's at the expense of some other neighborhoods around here. So,
I mean, I don't know what your situation is, but like, the amount of rent that we can charge on a workforce housing or 120% AMI unit changes every year, and it's been going up because the area median income's been going up. And like, now you can pull out like what market rate rent is in St. Pete for a two-bedroom. It's like, I don't know, $2,200 a month. And for a two-bedroom workforce housing, you can charge $2,500 a month. So that's been my contention with it, is like,
mhm.
and people make arguments over the long term, this or that. It's like, I am really struggling with like telling people who need a roof over their head, like, and are struggling to afford it, like, hey, don't worry, I subsidize someone and now they're allowed to charge $200 more than market rate. Like, I don't think that that's a really easy thing to sell and doesn't make much sense. So, anyway, that's been my contention there. But yeah, during the and that's the thing, is that a lot the the way that the deal was structured was like stuff about on-site and off-site housing. I can't remember all the details off the top of my head, but I do remember that it was something like only 200 affordable housing units needed to be built there, but 800 affordable or workforce needed to be built there. So it basically meant like we were going to get 200 units that were actually affordable, and then 600 that were at 120% or workforce, that were those ones that were charging more than what market rate is for most of the city. So it's like, and then there was other things in there, like there was just a penalty if you didn't do the affordable and workforce units, and the penalty was only $25,000. And luckily, arguing over that did make them raise it to like 50 or 75, but like, it still wasn't like, if you just said, oh, actually, this is going to be a market rate unit, you would make more over the long run if you just paid that penalty. And then, side note, it also said in the fine print, like, oh, you don't even have to pay the penalty if you're unsuccessful in getting like other government funding sources to subsidize this housing. So like, there was an out as well. And
Yeah.
nowadays you don't see money for affordable housing coming down from the federal government. They're trying to cut it all off. So then they would have done the deal and they'd have been like, well, sorry, we can't get any of it. And we would have, what kind of position does that put us in?
Yeah.
I'll just go on a little, I'll just give you a little explanation. The way we do affordable housing right now is a developer develops housing. We give them money to buy down the rents for a certain period of time. It's completely market-based solution. It's very conservative, invented by like conservative thinkers. Like I've just always advocated for us to build and maintain public ownership of housing and then charge people based off of what they can afford to pay. So like 20, 25, 30% of their income is what they pay in rent. Anyone can live there and it'll be a nice place. And it's mixed income social housing, and it's the way that housing is most affordable in like the places in the world that have the most stable housing markets, places like Singapore, Vienna, Austria, the entire country of Finland. And they're starting to do it in other places in the United States. Saw Chicago's doing something. There's a place in Maryland, I can't remember. It's the county outside of DC that's really known
PG,
for it.
Prince George, or yeah, PG, Prince George.
It might be, yeah, that's what's coming to mind, but it's been a while since I've looked into what they're up to. But it's sustainable. It's not reliant on developers making profit. And anyone can live there, and you have to build a lot of it, and it would take a long time for us to be able to impact our housing market overall, but it's a plan that gets us like somewhere in 10, 20 years. Whereas like right now, we're just, oh, we have some money here, subsidize 7 more units over there, which is it's not bad because it's helping people, but it's not going to get us out of this problem long term. And that's what my focus has been on. Anyway, that's all to say that like hopefully whatever gets done on like any development in the gas plant, like I can come from a place that's like, hey, I want to talk about how we make this work logistically long term, instead of me just having to talk about, oh my God, you cannot give $500 million to the baseball team. Like that's just not right. Like, and that was what I had to talk about previously, and now I don't have to. And I think a big point I made was, all these good things that like we're trying to do there, like we could do them better if we didn't give them all this money. And we'll still have money left over. And I think a lot of people are like coming around to that idea who maybe weren't there before. And so they're taking it as a silver lining. I'm taking it as like, okay, this is excellent. But of course, I don't like the way it ended either. Like,
Well, yeah.
I didn't like the way it ended either.
And it's definitely a hard, not a hard topic to discuss, but one way or the other, we definitely need that area to do something. Not just have an empty baseball field half damaged on it, but we definitely I would love to see that entire area redeveloped and like the plan that they had, just without the stadium.
I mean, it was
maybe we'll get
beautiful. Like even with the stadium, like my contention was never that like it was going to be a bad thing. Like it was just going to have opportunity costs. Like if we're paying this much here, these are the things that are going to go, and moral as well. Like it's just not morally correct to give money away to people who have so much already. But like it was going to be nice and we're going to get to enjoy it, but who is going to get to enjoy it is the thing. Like who can afford to continue to live here if these are the decisions that we're making constantly, if this is where we're putting our money? Who's going to be the people who are here 20 years from now and enjoying this development? And that I think sort of gets to the crux of it, because honestly, like it's just so difficult to live here right now with the costs and the storms and insurance and heat and everything. It's just getting really hard.
Florida is expensive. Florida is not cheap, and we're full. So go home. I'm kidding. This has been amazing. I always love talking to you. I love having you on. So we definitely need to have you on again very soon. We will invite you back. Thanks everybody for hanging out with us on For St. Pete's Sake. We hope today's episode was enlightening and entertaining. And we can't wait to see you until next week.
Yeah, please remember to like and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at For Saint.Pete's Sake. You can subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen. If you want to throw a rate and review on the podcast or on the YouTube, that'd be amazing. Either way, please come back next week for more stories from the people who are doing the hard work to make our community better. Until next time, for St. Pete's sake, let's keep pushing for change.